Good morning. Welcome back to the Roundtable. We are in the final weeks of the New York State legislative session, scheduled to adjourn around the 9th of June. Still alive is Assembly Bill 5322 and Senate Bill 4246, which would require packaging to be reduced by half, reduce toxins in packaging, and prohibit plastic burning. I think it's impossible to discuss plastic and certainly plastic burning without bringing in our next guest. She is the president of Beyond Plastics, Bennington College faculty member, former EPA Regional Administrator, and, most importantly, perhaps, a panelist for this program. Judith Enck, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Most importantly, a panelist on Roundtable. Thank you, Joe.
It's really good to have you. Thank you very much. This seems like an issue. We were talking about this. I think that an issue that we just didn't want to, spend a few seconds on during the panel and talk a little bit more about as the legislative session winds up. So, give us a sense of the tortured journey that this particular legislation has taken.
Well, some version of it has been around for over 3 years, but this is the strongest version. And if the New York State legislature were to adopt it, it would be the most comprehensive packaging reduction bill in the entire country. It used to be called Extended Producer Responsibility. Wah, wah. Boring name. No one knows what it is. So it's renamed the Packaging Reduction and Recycling Infrastructure Act. And the exciting thing is there are brand new chairs of the Environmental Committee in both houses in New York. Senator Pete Harckham from Westchester chairs the Senate Environmental Committee, and Assemblymember Deborah Glick from Manhattan chairs the Assembly Environmental Committee. I might add, the first woman to chair the committee in the history of the New York State legislature. Why did that take so long? But Glick and Harckham are terrific. They are pushing hard. We have 16 days to get this through. But there is ferocious opposition from little mom and pop companies like Amazon and McDonald's, and an outfit called the American Chemistry Council. They have spent years confusing people that you can recycle your plastics when, in fact, over 90% of plastics never get recycled. So now they're kind of throwing in the towel and admitting that plastics recycling doesn't work. I want to point out, everyone, please keep recycling metal, paper, glass, cardboard. Please, please, please compost yard waste and food waste. But we have to be honest, plastics recycling has been a failure. So the policy needs to be to reduce plastics and reduce plastic packaging and not go for the ploy being pushed by the chemical and fossil fuel industry, which is so-called chemical recycling, which is an attempt to either high heat or use solvents to dissolve plastics and call that recycling. That's crazy talk. That should not be in the definition of recycling in this bill.
Why has plastic been treated differently in the past when it comes to recycling?
Well, the law promotes recycling of all materials, but the problem with plastics is, unlike you recycle an aluminum can, you can make a new aluminum can,
right,
or you recycle the Albany Times-Union, you can make a new paper product. Plastic is too hard to recycle, and the plastics industry knows this. Over 13,000 different toxic chemicals are used in plastics. They're all different resin types. They're all different colors. So think of your own home, Joe. On top of your washing machine, there's probably a hard plastic detergent bottle that's orange. And then in your refrigerator, there's probably a clear, squeezable ketchup bottle. Those two bottles cannot be recycled together. The problem fundamentally is the material. So the plastics industry has been lying to the public telling us just toss all your plastics into the recycling bin, when they know there are typically only markets for things that are marked number 1 and number 2 plastic. Over 90% of plastics never get recycled. If they go to a landfill, if they're littered, they're with us forever. And unfortunately, they're also, we're seeing microplastics showing up in drinking water, in air, and microplastics, which is 5 millimeters or less of plastic, are being found by scientists and researchers in the human body. They have found microplastics in human blood, in human lung, in breast milk, and in the human placenta on both the fetal side and the maternal side. Our babies are being born pre-polluted. And that's why this bill in the New York legislature by Senator Harcum and Assemblymember Glick is so essential, because it kind of calls out that we need to first reduce packaging. So it requires 50% reduction of packaging over the next 12 years. And it's incremental. It's not like you have to do, the 50% reduction immediately. There's a glide path. It's 10% reduction, then 20, then 40. And that's a really smart way to legislate, because you can course correct if the companies are not making the change. And then most importantly, perhaps for local governments, companies that produce packaging need to pay a fee so that money goes to local governments to pay for recycling and collection and processing of waste. Right now, you and I as taxpayers pay for all of this. The city of New York says that they will receive revenue of about $150 million, which is significant, because when you think about who really has control to change packaging, it's not you and I. It's the companies that tell their packaging engineers how to develop packaging. And right now, those engineers are really not focused on what happens to the packaging after you're done eating the potato chips or the candy bar. They're just looking for color and pizzazz and looking to sell the product. And then you and I as taxpayers get stuck paying the cost. So this is a polluter pay bill. Packaging companies will pay to dispose of or recycle packaging based on the environmental impact of the packaging. So, for instance, if it's a reusable milk bottle or a reusable container of any kind, you pay no fee at all. But if you're a company that's putting out like multi-material baby food pouches that are impossible to recycle, you pay a higher fee. And that's going to create much needed revenue for local governments.
So how does this tie into the budget? And where are we now on all of this as the legislative session draws to a close?
Well, Governor Hochul had a packaging proposal in the budget, but unfortunately it was very, very weak and filled with loopholes. And so the state legislature very wisely did not include the governor's proposal in the budget. That's fine. So now we have until June 9th to get the stronger bill through both houses. It makes perfect sense. Plastics is a climate change issue. It's an environmental justice issue. It's a health issue. But right now, the special interest lobbyists are out in force trying to either kill the bill or significantly weaken it. And so that's why, the only thing we have on our side is facts and people power. So this would be a good time for listeners to contact their state legislators and tell them what they think about all of the packaging that assaults us every time we order something online or go to the supermarket. None of us voted for more packaging or more plastic packaging, but it's appeared, and unfortunately, plastic production is slated to double over the next 20 years unless policymakers do something like pass this bill that will reduce demand for plastics.
How much more would it cost the companies to not use plastic?
Well, some of them would actually save money by reducing packaging. So you've had the experience. You order something online. It's a little thing, and it comes in, the
enormous
outside
box.
Yeah, the big box or the plastic envelope that you can't really recycle. And then there's more plastic inside, and then sometimes there's like a third layer. It's like those little nesting dolls.
Right.
So how about reducing the packaging? It'll save them money. Now, if some companies want to switch, say, to refillable wine bottles, which would be great because it's costing wineries about 80 cents a bottle to buy a glass bottle for our delicious wine, they need a commercial bottle washing operation. Something like that could be funded by these eco-modulated fees. So it's going to vary company by company. There's no question plastic is cheap, but it's really not cheap when you add up all of the health and environmental impacts. But, companies tell us that they are innovators. They're going to have time, and this is their moment to shine and innovate with much more environmentally sound packaging than what we see on store shelves today.
Judith Enck is a Bennington College faculty member, former EPA Regional Administrator, president of Beyond Plastics. You can find more at their website, beyondplastics.org, beyondplastics.org. Judith, you'll be on Friday, yes?
Yes, I'll see you on Friday.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We'll be